This is the story of me and my dog Grady. My brother and I had always begged our parents for a dog, and not until September 2008 did the dream of having one become a reality. On a sunny day, my mother, brother, and I drove 2 hours out of state to visit a golden retriever breeder in Langhorne, Pennsylvania. After the breeder told us all about the puppies, we got to play with them for a little while. My mother realized that not all the puppies the breeder said there were out. There was one missing. So she asked about it, and the breeder said the other puppy was inside, so she asked her to bring it out. The breeder must have been keeping this puppy hidden because it was just so perfect. It was beautiful, it was really playful, and there was just nothing bad about it. After playing with this puppy for a little while, we decided it was the one, and we ended up taking it home. It took us a while to choose a name for the dog, but we ended up going with Grady. We ended up going with this name because my dad has a boat that's from the brand Grady White, and he loves boats. So the inside joke for the family was that my dad would have his Grady and my mom would have her Grady. I quickly grew super attached to Grady. I'm pretty sure everyone in the family did. We were all obsessed with him pretty much. I was constantly playing with him, and I pretty much became his playmate. Grady and I would play tug of war. I would throw balls to him all the time, and we would wrestle around. That was a big thing that he started doing once he got bigger. Something that Grady kind of taught me from playing with him all the time was that you should set out a little bit of time each day to have some fun of your own. Grady was always so fascinated with the simplest things. I remember one day our family went out to a sandbar, and we let Grady out, and for several hours he was just chasing birds around like it was nothing, loving life. And later that day he ended up getting sick from drinking so much salt water. Something that was so special about Grady was he spent every minute of his life loving people. There was literally never a person this dog didn't love. Every time Grady encountered a new person, he greeted them with so much enthusiasm that it was almost tough to hold him on the leash. He was dragging you around, and he was going where he wanted to go. This trait of Grady kind of taught me that I could find joy in virtually anything in life. Another thing that made Grady such a great dog was his amazing personality. Grady had one of the greatest personalities I'll likely ever see, whether it be from a human or an animal. This dog was one of the most stubborn creatures to ever walk the earth, in my opinion. Grady loved to go on walks and adventures, but anytime you ever tried to take him on a walk, he would make you chase him around with his leash. My parents walked Grady probably the most often in our family, so when my brother and I tried to walk Grady, he would literally just lay down on the driveway until the house was pretty much out of sight. Another pretty funny thing about Grady was that if you're ever sitting in the living room on a couch or chair and you got up to do something, Grady would literally just hop into your seat and steal your chair. He liked to do this a lot to my dad, which was pretty funny to me, and you could always just see when my dad would go to the bathroom, Grady would just hop up and take it. A great last feature of Grady to share was his undying love for our family. 5 minutes really can't do him justice of like how great a dog he was and how attached we grew to him. This quote by John Grogan, the author of Marley and Me, will forever remind me of Grady. It says, "Such short little lives our pets have to spend with us, and they spend most of it waiting for us to come home each day. It is amazing how much love and laughter they bring into our lives, and even how much closer we become with each other because of them." This quote really means a lot to me because it reminds me of Grady so much. Every single day when I would come home from school, Grady would be right there sitting by the door to greet me, whether I had a good day or a bad day. And then he would always walk over to the couch and wait for me to come sit with him and pet him. This is something I'll always miss about not having Grady around anymore. On December 15th, 2016, my brother got home from studying abroad in Venice, Italy, and when Grady saw him first, he couldn't contain his excitement. He was bolting back and forth in and out the doors, and it just made him so happy. This was just something that showed how much Grady cared about us and how much he loved us. 5 days later, on December 20th, 2016, I was upstairs doing homework, getting ready to complete my last day of school before Christmas break, and my parents left for church. When they got back, Grady didn't greet them at the door, which was unusual. He was laying in the living room and was not in his typical peppy mood. This seemed a bit off, and then my dad tried to feed him some roast beef, and he would refuse to eat it, so my dad took him to the vet. We all just assumed he ate something funny. Afterwards, I just went straight back upstairs to do homework, and then I went to sleep, and that was it. The next morning, I woke up and I asked my mom what the deal with Grady was, because he wasn't there in the morning. And my mom said the vet wanted to keep him for overnight. I asked my mom what was wrong with him, and she mentioned that he had fluid around his heart, which I don't think either of us knew how serious that was at the time. So I Googled it while I was eating my pancakes. Immediately, this popped up as a symptom of cancer, so I decided to keep that to myself and not really mention it to my mom. I went to school and couldn't stop thinking about it all day, and then I remember the last class of the day, I got a text from my mom again saying, "Grady's not doing too well, come home immediately." I remember rushing home, like almost running to my car, and I drove straight home, and then when I got home, my whole entire family was gathered around Grady, and everyone was crying. And I remember this was the last time I ever saw Grady wag his tail, was to kind of greet me to come home. Later that day, we had to take Grady to the vet, and he passed away. The irony of the situation kind of was my dad, who was most against the dog at first, ended up becoming the most attached. Having Grady pass away was the first time I've ever seen my dad cry at all. It was easily one of the saddest days of my life. And then I remember on the way home, I received an email. The email happened to actually be from the University of Loyola, Maryland, saying I was accepted, which was a total sign for me, and I just think it meant that I was meant to come here. That's the story of me and my dog, Grady.